Welcome back to My Conscious Dad on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. If you're just joining us today, we're talking about things your young adults might be struggling with. So just a reminder before the break, we left off on enabling. What's next on the list?
Yeah, some of the other struggles that young adults are having is that they're being rejected in the world. They're taking chances. They're, stepping out of their comfort zone. They're, doing things that they know that they should be doing to take advantage of opportunities, and they're getting turned down. The world is tough out there. It's challenging, and they could be taking a beating. And while they're taking that beating, if they don't have a support structure or some kind of inner circle of people to help them and pick them up and champion them again, it's very easy to just kind of hide out and find other things to get involved in where they don't pony back up and get back on the horse and start galloping again. They just take it easy now.
I think that kind of goes back a little bit too to one of the struggles you were talking about earlier, which is not having a mentor. There's another one that said having too many negative thoughts and self-doubts. I think all three of those kind of play off of each other. If you have a lot of self-limiting beliefs and self-doubts, which most people do, it might be a good idea to have an inner circle or a mentor to always be there to give you positive reinforcement.
Yeah, absolutely. I think all the things that I've been talking about so far, if you think about each one of those being a pillar in a hamster wheel, that's really what they're on. They're running on a hamster wheel that's going round and round and round, and that hamster wheel is built by some of these interpersonal dysfunctions that they've never learned how to overcome or break through or redesign. And so that's kind of where they're at. So when it comes to being rejected and taking the beating as a struggle for young adults, I'm also noticing that they haven't learned how to persevere. They don't know how to really dig down deep and find that inner champion inside of them and pick themselves up, dust themselves off, and just get back on the horse and start galloping again. They don't have the grit, and a lot of times they haven't developed that grit because the parents, some of us enabling parents, not consciously enabling, but unconsciously doing it because we love you guys. And so when we decided that we love you or that we're going to give you the best kind of upbringing we can, sometimes we over love you. We give you too much. And so what we do by doing that and enabling you is we rob the natural opportunity for you to learn how to develop some grit, how to develop some perseverance, how to find that warrior inside of you that's just going to keep getting back up and going at it again, and then beat down and get back up and going at it again. And there's something to be said about being a champion. Those are some of the inner qualities that champions have. And you got to ask yourself have I robbed my kids from learning that natural ability to persevere and push through and be that champion that they are? And if I did, how do I course correct that? And is it too late? And my answer is no, it's never too late. But it really starts with you as a parent realizing that, maybe I did create some dysfunctions and I want to course correct this.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me of this one episode of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and I know everyone listening has seen that show, but there's an episode where Vivian and Uncle Phil are kind of, they're talking about how basically they've enabled their kids so much and they've given them all the things that they never got, because you know how they're a rich family. They've given their kids all the things that they never got, that they forgot to give their kids the things that they did get, which was perseverance and goal setting and working hard and all those things. And I remember thinking, I actually just saw the episode recently. I wasn't a kid thinking this, but I remember thinking, wow, this is me sometimes. and only because I know that, you and Mom, there's a lot of things that you guys didn't have that you really wanted to give to us as kids. And there's also a lot of parents out there that are like that. And I think most parents do that. They want to give all the kids the things that they never had, that they forget to give them the things that they did have, and they forget to teach them all those things that they've already learned.
Yeah, and there's some fundamental things about parenting and about like tradition, and deciding that we're going to create a tradition in this family, and whether it's a tradition of eating together and spending quality time together, and making sure we turn all the phones off and really be present as we're sharing and connecting. Maybe it's creating a game night, or we're going to go and do this every Saturday night. We're going to do this, or meet up for half an hour. We're going to do a brunch, or whatever it is. That quality time is, I think, what you as a parent can decide that's what you're going to bring from your past. Because some of the great qualities of your past and the things that help you develop character and grit and perseverance was some of those little things that was missing in your parenting now, but your parents was instilling it. And whether your parents were doing it because they were consciously doing it, or maybe it was just a sign of the times. Like, back in the days, there wasn't, internet, and there wasn't, all these distractions that we have in today's world to really pull us away from really being connected to our families. And so that could be something that you can really give and serve up to your kids, is bringing some old pastime traditions and teaching them how to sit around and talk, and how to call a family meeting, and all those kinds of things. And if you don't know how to do that and never had it, then it's time for you to learn how. Go back to school. Go take some classes, read some books, get yourself a coach, do some personal development workshops. Engage yourself so that you can learn how to give your kids the essential tools they need, so that they can not survive, but so that they can persevere, so they can win big. Another thing that I noticed when it comes to young adults is a lot of them feel like they're not being heard at home. They feel like their parents aren't really listening to them. And that active listening takes a real conscious effort. You really have to have worked out some kinks in your interpersonal abilities to be able to listen intently, and listen without judgment, and listen without trying to think of a problem, thinking of a solution. Because a lot of times that's how we listen, right? When you have your son or daughter is coming to you with a problem, we're not evolved enough to just listen and be the sounding board. A lot of times we listen and we're thinking up in our head of how to solve it or how to give them solutions. And one of the greatest books that I've ever read was Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. And in that book, it talks about how women, when they're sharing or venting, they don't want their man to give them the solution or the answer to their problem.
Right, Mr. Fix It.
Yeah, they don't want you to fix it for them, because you offering the solution or offering them the answer, it implies that you don't think I'm capable enough of figuring this out for myself. And I think that teenagers also operate like that. Mom, Dad, when you're saying, well, son, you should do this, or well, if you would have listened to me, as you're automatically giving them those responses without consciously thinking, well, maybe he just needs me to listen, or just be compassionate, or just be a sounding board, and maybe I don't have to say anything. I think that's what your kids are yearning from you. They want you to just give them a space where they can vent and say stuff out loud, and they might not necessarily need you to give them answers unless they ask you specifically.
I think, at least for me, most of the time, we don't mind the answers. We actually want answers, and we actually want response and feedback and your opinion. It's just never given the way that we want and in the right context. Not saying that we're looking for a specific answer, but we don't want you to say, this is what you should have done, right, or you should do this, or you need to go back there and fix it, or it's almost like you're being attacked, or like you said, you don't know how to fix it, or you're being told that what you did was wrong, this is what you need to do, or you're gonna mess it up if you do it like that. So whatever message you're sending is coming to us 10 times worse.
Yeah, it's being perceived on your end that that you don't know what you're doing. Why'd you do it this way? You're bad and wrong. And you're interpreting that from either the tone that we use, mm-hmm, or the certain words that we use as we're articulating ourselves. And this is common a lot of times with parents, is when I'm coaching parents, a lot of times they'll give me a scenario and they'll say, can you help me with the scenario? How did I mess this one up? And I'll tell them, okay, well, tell me verbatim how it went down. And when they tell me, it's 98% of the time, it's in how they communicated it. And then I'll say, okay, get your notebook, take some notes. I'm going to explain to you how you could have said this in a different way that would have really had them hear it in a way that it was empowering them rather than disempowering them. And a lot of times I teach words. I teach different distinctions of words of how to say this. And when I give my client 3 or 4 different ways to say it, they look at me like, wow, like I'm so brilliant. And it's not about being brilliant. It's about knowing certain words to use and how to articulate them so that makes people feel like that you believe in them and that they can do it. You're just using your words to kind of empower and lift somebody up and believing in them, rather than using the words that are validating their own insecurities that automatically causes a response of feeling insecure or not good enough and validating that they're less than.
I think that it takes a very high level of consciousness to use the right words, and only because I know that in my journey of consciousness, I'm still not there. And I just feel like I don't know if I'm ever going to be there where every single word I use is the right word. But I think that.
But what if there is no right word? What if there's only the wrong word?
Right.
Like don't look at it like I want to find the right words, because there really is no right words. But what if there is the wrong words? So if you're observing and being aware of, okay, I said that the wrong way. The cool thing about that is that if you're conscious and proactive, you can always go back and clean it up. A lot of times, some of my best advice to my clients is, well, yeah, you might have messed it up an hour ago or yesterday, but who says you can't go home and clean that up? Just go back home and tell your son or daughter, hey, you know what? Yesterday when we had that conversation, after reflecting a day, I realized that I don't think I gave you the best advice. So I want to give it another shot. And after thinking about it, what I really want to say is, I believe that you can do this, and I believe that you'll figure it out, and I'm here to support you. And maybe that's what you really wanted to say yesterday, but by being unconscious and getting tagged and having your own stuff, your own insecurities get in the way, you said it in a whole different way that you just kind of, you poured the water all over their campfire.
If a parent, if you're listening, you're a parent and you did that to your kid, I swear it would blow their mind.
Easy. Hands down.
And they would probably figure out that problem and 10 more in the same day.
Yeah, they'd look at you and go, what are you smoking? Like, where did my mom go? Because they're not used to that. They're used to you being unconsciously on automatic pilot. They're used to you having automatic responses. And it's funny because I remember growing up, and I still have a vision of my mom's voice, and I'm gonna share it, with you guys. But I knew that when I did something wrong, I would always hear my mom. There's a certain tone, and she would say the same thing over again, and it would sound like this. Oh my God, Alex, why did you do this? And it was with that same tone, and it's just like programmed in my mind. And so when I would hear that tone, like, oh my God, why would you think that this was okay? And it's funny because they draw out the syllables, right?
It's funny because she still does that,
yeah,
so I can imagine it.
But what's cool about her still doing that is I know who I am now, and I am secure with myself, and I love myself, and I believe in myself, and so I'm okay with making mistakes. So even if she said that, me being a 45-year-old man, even if she said that, I wouldn't hear it like that little 14-year-old kid that is insecure with himself or afraid to come and share with her. But when your parents, as a parent, know that when you speak to them from automatic pilot, you're pressing buttons in them that is validating their own self-limiting beliefs that they already have about themselves. So when you're going there like that, all they're hearing from you is, see, one more time, I'm not good enough. See, one more time, my mom's disappointed in me. And when you're conscious and you get clarity about that, you really pick your words very wisely. And the very first stages that happens is you start to use less words. Actually, less words is better. Just having your son or daughter come to you and kind of share their mistake that they made or being upset or whatever it is, just a smile and nodding of the head and your hand on their shoulder or even a hug sometimes that's the homework I give my clients. Start off with saying very little, or I understand, or I've been there before. Just practice being compassionate without trying to give them a solution. And as I give them that homework, they start to create new behavior patterns in their parenting, and it blows them away.
Yeah, my mom actually does that. So I'll go and vent to her, looking for help or solution, and she'll just go, "Oh yeah, that's terrible," or "That sucks," or whatever, and that's it. And I'll go, "Well, what am I supposed to do?" So I think when we ask you for it, it's coming from a much better place, and where we're open to receiving that advice. So I think saying less, like you're saying, is definitely a lot more effective when we're very specifically asking you for it.
Yeah, and I think that if you just kind of sympathize with them and go, wow, like, yeah, I know how that feels, and you use just those neutral responses, leave it to your son or daughter to say, so what do you think I should do? And then when they do that, now you have carte blanche to go, well, this is how I see it, or this is how I would handle it. But they asked you for it. So now they can't be upset or be defensive because you're not giving them unsolicited advice. Let them ask you. Prior to that, just let them vent. There's two different sections, venting and then asking. And a lot of times I'll teach my clients to speak like that. Hey, are you just venting, or do you want feedback, or do you want my advice? And then you give the other person the opportunity to decide. No, I'm just venting. Okay, got it.
And I think that goes for every relationship with your friends,
Absolutely.
family, everything. And that's really good advice. So stay tuned for more of My Conscious Dad right here on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. Welcome back to My Conscious Dad on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. If you're just joining us today, we talked about what your young adults are struggling with. And if you missed any of it, or you want to hear it again, you can always find our podcast online. So we're going to go over a quick recap so you can find out what you missed.
Which podcast? Where do they get the podcast for some people that are like, where do I get this?
www.hometownstation.com.
I like that. Today, if you did miss it, we talked about being stuck in the what's next phase.
We talked about timing being everything.
We talked about as a young adult, you possibly gave up on your dreams at an early age.
We talked about parents enabling their children and children possibly enabling their parents.
We talked about your children possibly pulling away in a healthy way.
We talked about the harm of self-doubt, limiting beliefs, and negative thoughts.
We talked about not having grit due to enabling parents.
We talked about parents listening more. Your young adults do not need a Mr. Fix-It.
And we also talked about less words sometimes is the better choice.
And we talked about how your message and tone are being delivered and interpreted differently.
I think it was a great show. It was a great topic.
I think it was too. I'm very glad that Gabby called in and gave a little bit of insight to maybe some young adults or parents who are going through the same kind of situation.
Well, just asking the question. I mean, I didn't think she was going to ask a question, but, that was great of her to even, and I know it's something she's already struggling with, so to ask it a third time, a seventh time, a 12th time, helps you get more clarity. Hearing it from someone else, sharing it maybe from another perspective, or saying it at a week later or a month later, it helps you just realize, like, yeah, I do need to kind of do those things.
Right, and that kind of goes back to timing being everything and figuring out when you need to hear that piece of information at which exact time in your life.
It's almost like certain books. If you read books, I don't know if you've ever read a book that you keep reading it at different times, and every time you read it, it's like, oh my God, either it's like I forgot this, or you see something new in it, or maybe just your awareness opened up to a whole nother level, but you got a different meaning, more value.
Right. It's kind of like when I was little, I would watch Disney movies and they were so beautiful and great. And now I watch them and they're kind of sad. So it's kind of the same thing.
Well, your context is growing.
Right,
your capacity is changing. So.
Exactly. So next week, we're going to kind of start a new series or segment. Do you want to kind of explain that?
You know what? I'm in this exciting phase of my life where I'm actually writing a book series, and I'm writing the first book. It's called Empowering and Inspiring Your Teenager, The Magical Ingredients for Successful Parenting. And that's the name of the series, really, is The Magical Ingredients for Successful Parenting. And I'll be talking about different topics in different books. But more importantly, I think, I'm going to be on this run and the run is going to be called Amazon's best-selling author list. And so that's going to be exciting for the next 30 to 90 days. We're just going to be off and running, and I'm actually writing the book now, and I have some contributing authors from the transformational arena, some of the best transformational trainers to coaches. I also have contributing authors from conscious parents and teenagers to give insight, and really it's going to be a golden gem for all parents. And if you really want to learn how to move from your current parenting style, which is most likely the controlling style parent where you're struggling, and shift into the empowering and the inspiring part of you, this book is really going to break down the powerful distinctions that you need to really be focusing on. And so I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I'm really excited about the guests that you're bringing in. Probably the next couple of weeks. So also I'm excited about the book, but nothing I'm really excited about is the conscious parent training that's coming up next weekend, right?
Yeah, next weekend I have a training for, it's an advanced parent workshop, and it's for people, parents that want to raise their level of consciousness and really discover the things that they don't know. And I actually had this awareness at the age of 23. I stepped into a transformational training, and it changed my life. It opened my eyes to be able to see things that I didn't know was possible. And I think that we all as human beings live in the assumption or in the illusion that we kind of know a little thing or two, and we got this dialed in, I got that dialed in. There's a whole nother world of things you have absolutely no idea about. And in this training, the way it's designed, it opens up that whole other world so that you can really learn the things that you need to learn to actually get the results that you're looking for.
Yeah, and I'm very excited, not only for the parents, but for their teens, for their kids, their young adults. It's, I have a very special place in my heart for the kids because I work with them and I am one. So I'm really excited for them. Thank you so much for joining us today on My Conscious Dad with me, Jasmine Urbina, and my dad, Alex Urbina. We're here every Friday from 1 to 2 p.m. right here on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS.